comments below, and let me know if I missed anything. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to...
The weekly stuff. Let's go do a couple of important things.
Instead of confining themselves to the heavens, God should broaden their horizons in the world below. Many insects have a compulsion to follow the light, and humans are the same. Except we call that light hope. Exploration and trials. Adventuring is right up my alley. Instead of confining themselves to the heavens, God should broaden their horizons in the world below. exploration and trials. Adventuring is right up my alley.
One second on my stomach, I need to do a bunch of stuff.
Luz, signing out.
Advanced features. This is a
outside the safety of the core worlds. As inside the core worlds, you can normally
Instead
make
of
an easy enough
confining
living
themselves to the
by
heavens,
smuggling goods,
God
blowing
should
up
broaden
pirates,
their
and then whoring
horizons in
yourself
the
out to
world
one of the
below.
factions. However, outside, you're alone. If you're lucky, you may run into some rogue AI or pirate warlords. And if you're not, well, you might just run out of fuel and get sucked by a black hole. Oh, it's gonna push me to a black hole though! Oh, no! Oh, and on a side note, for the first time on this channel, I'll be running a female protagonist. So to the 2.8% of ladies that enjoy Star Sector, this video's for you. We started the game on the edge of the core worlds with a mule and a handful of supplies. To make this run a little more painful, I set all factions to be hostile with us and picked the high value target star. This means throughout the game, we'll be hunted down by bounty hunters. So the first thing I needed to do was run. Heading towards the jump point, we were intercepted by a remnant. It's torpedo bounced! What a loser! Putting it down and stealing a whole 254 credits, I left the system and headed south. The first system I came across had a warning beacon outside it. Now, I wasn't quite desperate enough to risk getting mauled by the locals, so I headed towards the next system. Okay, we found another medium system. I'm still not that desperate. Unfortunately, this trend of the game trying to fuck me didn't end here. Oh, really? A high danger here? For Christ's sake, I'm gonna run out of fuel in a minute. Oh my God. Here we go. This looks fine. There's no warning beacons. There's no nothing. You motherfucker. Running low on both fuel and supplies, I gave the system a shot. Unfortunately, it seemed that the only thing here was the artillery station that was trying to pound my ass. After searching the entire system though, we did find an orbital lab. Inside, we were given a choice to salvage some neuroconditioning compounds, but at the risk of the station exploding. Running low on both fuel and supplies, I wasn't about to take that risk. Okay, I mean, as much as an alpha core is really cool, that's not what I need, but I'll take it. Oh, and on the double dip, we found another. Admittedly, the two alpha cores were pretty good, but the real prize was the forge template for an onslaught. To use the template though, we would need to find a whole forge or a special research station. So that would be a future me problem, as the next couple of months were pretty rough. Every system I surveyed was either completely empty or had probes guarded by a pack of domain ships. So it wasn't long before I ran out of fuel and was being pulled towards the nearest star. And it just had to be a fucking neutron star. Sadly, I couldn't just sit there and spam out the distress signal, as thanks to our hostile relations, at best they would just laugh at me, or worse, try and kill me. While exploring the system though, we did manage to find a couple of unguarded probes. One of them even had the location of a Domain-era survey ship. On my way towards the survey ship, I dodged a couple of remnants. Leave me alone. I've got nothing of value on me. I mean, I have the souls of a couple of your companions, but that's about it. Discovered a ship loaded with 150 armaments, and once we arrived, noticed the system had a distress call. Now, usually these are just pirates camping a jump point, waiting to fiddle people out of their supplies. A risk I was gonna have to take. Inside, I dodged a couple of domain fleets, only to discover that the survey ship had guards. Oh, it's got automated defenses! No! I forgot about that! Ashamed of my stupidity, I headed towards the exit, only to find the remains of a dead pirate. Though it was nothing more than a little overdriven frigate, it remains gave me a brilliant idea. The brain's working, the cogs are turning. Let's lead these guys over to the domain guys. Come here, pirates. Come get a look at this tasty ass of mine. Doesn't it smell ripe and fresh for the taking? Where are my fellow gamers? Where did they all go? There they are. No, you're meant to kill each other, not me! What is this? There we go. With the pirates in the domain fighting each other, I used this opportunity to salvage some supplies and this fine piece of ship. With 2 new ships under my belt and not enough crew to crew them, it was time to locate some civilization out here. Outside the core worlds, you'll primarily find 2 types of people. Pirates who want to kill you, and terrorists who want to kill you. So my options for friends were fairly limited. Placing down a comms relay, we could use it to discover the location of any nearby stations. Sadly though, we didn't have enough fuel to make it to the nearest pirate station, but along the way was a system with a habitable planet. Upon arrival, we gave a couple of fleets the slip and found not 1, but 2 habitable planets. Also, next to the planet was a survey ship, but this time, with no guards. Completely filled up with fuel and supplies, I placed the rest in stable orbit and continued our journeys towards the pirate station. Thankfully, the station was located next to a gas giant, making it easy enough to sneak into. Once inside, I sold off a bunch of stuff, kitted out our ships, and bought a couple of new ones. With our navy looking like this, I headed to the bar to see if anyone was offering some jobs, and we found a lady offering a simple dead drop. This is exactly what we were looking for. An easy job I could do to build some relations. However, as I was leaving the system, a pirate fleet attacked me. Now, killing them wasn't an issue. The issue we had was their death cost us 3 relations, the same amount we gained for completing the dead drop. On a positive note though, we did get paid 87,000 credits and found a biofactory. With a job well done, I headed back to the station expecting some more work, only to find that the bar was empty. Okay. No one's in the bar. Making my way over to another pirate station, I was attacked by some guy called Chiron. Now, I don't know why he attacked me, but after killing him, I lost another 5 relations with the pirates. And things only got worse for me. Arriving at the next station, I found that the bar was empty, and as I was trying to leave, I was attacked by a large group of pirates, who proceeded to destroy half of my fleet. That poor Shay did not deserve that. Let this be a lesson that it's really hard to make friends with people who just want to shoot you. So what I needed was a bigger gun. Exploring the outskirts of civilization, sometimes you can stumble across derelict ships. Most of the time, they're just crappy frigates or trade ships. But every now and then, you can stumble across something like this, which would be perfect. Instead, I found an unarmed piece of shit called a mud skipper. But at least it had someone's pension inside. Later on though, I did stumble across a Liberator, a light escort battleship that also came with its own level 5 commander. Rushing back to the pirates, I bought some crew, some guns, and spent about 2 minutes kitting the ship out with some of the hottest trash I could find. Well, we gotta work with what we have, and unfortunately for us, this is what we have. Amazingly, my plan of bringing bigger guns actually worked, as for a while we were able to freely come and go from the station. But don't get me wrong, this ship design was terrible, but it was enough to deter the pirates from fucking with me. Anyway, after doing a bunch of jobs for the pirates, I got my first contact, who gave us a few more jobs, and before long, we had finally grinded enough relations with the pirates so they didn't want to shoot me. With somewhere I could call home, it was time to move on to our next issue. Throughout this playthrough, I hadn't really gained much experience. The only level I gained was way back when I salvaged that survey ship. So to farm up some levels, I headed back down south towards the warning beacons and began farming the locals. The additional levels were put into both containment procedures and makeshift equipment, as this battleship was great, but it was costing us a ton in maintenance. And right now, I was very poor. Gaining a level though, I headed back to the pirates, sold off a ship I salvaged to our contact, and ventured towards the location of a research station, only to find that the station had an experimental hull forge, allowing me to bring my Great House Onslaught to life. This absolute menace of a ship was basically just an Onslaught on steroids, the main changes being a few hybrid slots, some spicy S mods, and the thermal cannons being a little heavier. Now I won't lie, in the first design for this ship, it kinda sucked. However, this didn't deter me from doing something stupid, like heading over to the location of a Domain-era mothership with the idea that I could kill it. With only enough fuel to get us there, our journey to the mothership had to be a success. Arriving, we were immediately jumped by a handful of Domain ships and were introduced to an old friend. God damn, Rampart's been so good. Ah, this is hell. This is horrible. Why did I want to do this? Now, we learned some valuable lessons here. First, maybe bringing some anti-shield weapons against ships that didn't have shields was kind of a bad idea. Second, ramparts are still busted. And finally, we suck. This is horrible. This was a horrible idea. After losing our pride of the fleet, I was able to just about scrape a win with the Liberator. Thanks to my 2 brain cells rubbing together hard enough, I was able to recover my Onslaught thanks to reinforced bulkheads. Fleeing from this stupid system then, we of course didn't have enough fuel to get home, but we did have enough to get to that system where we put that stuff in orbit. Once I arrived, I scooped up my cargo, did a quick survey of the planet, and discovered that the desert world had a rogue military core, which is cool, I guess. Crawling back to the pirates, we dodged some more remnants and had just enough fuel to get close enough to let the gravitational pull carry us the rest of the way. Oh, it's going to push me into the right system. Oh, it's going to push me into a black hole though. Oh, no. 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 Oh, God. Oh, how did I survive? I should be dead. Back within the safety of my pirate brethren, I sat around and sulked for a bit until I had a great idea. Make the same mistake again. However, this time, don't die like an idiot. Heading back to the mothership then, I took a battle with the first patrol fleet, which involved going toe-to-toe with an old friend. The Wall class. Oh, there's the wall! There's the wall! Oh, it's so many guns! Oh, God. Torpedoes, please! 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 Oh. I'm alive! Oh, Christ. After winning the battle, I recovered an Alpha Core, but this time, didn't plan on hanging around. Rushing towards the mothership, I blew the bitch to pieces and recovered myself one of the greatest items in the game. Hello, my beauty. Just add that to the collection of random stuff that I've acquired. With this fine piece of technology, a handful of Alpha Cores, and a navy of some kind, it was time to get a little colonial. When colonizing, it's normally a good idea to have a large stockpile of cash. So to get a little more liquid, we sold a couple of Alpha Cores to the pirates. Now these Alphas will stay on the black market indefinitely as long as I don't do anything stupid. Anyway, I colonized the arid planet next to the desert world with the rogue military core and named the planet Lonesome Town. What? Already? Already? I just founded the place. Son of a bitch. Because we were both far away from the core worlds and at war with everyone, our access wasn't exactly great. So if we had any chance of surviving, we would have to become a little self-sufficient. As right now, the only thing our market produced was people trying to leave. The main problem we had was food shortages. But that's okay, that was nothing a little bit of farming couldn't solve. To reduce our colonial needs, I also slapped on a bunch of gamma cores, which knocked down the demands of all of our industries by 1. The rest of our needs were going to have to be smuggled in via a free port. And after overcoming our initial issues, things were starting to look pretty good for us. People weren't starving. I built a variable assembler to give us a passive production of fuel and supplies, but I had failed to account for one thing: the bounty hunters. Now you may have noticed that I haven't been attacked by bounty hunters yet. That's because you have to be within civilization for them to trigger. Turns out colonizing a planet meant this system was now considered civilized. But it's okay, because little did they know, they were trying to kill a fucking genius. You see, when you colonize a planet, your initial problem is pirates that want to raid your trade routes. However, because I had no friends, they ended up just sitting around and waiting for trade fleets that were never going to arrive, meaning I could bait the bounty hunters into the pirate fleets, and since we were on somewhat good terms, I could join the battles. I can join the battle? Yeah, my boys. I'm guessing I'll join on the pirate side, right? Together, we defeated a handful of bounty hunters until we had finally killed enough of them, and they just kind of gave up. This couldn't have come at a better time, as Lonesome Town had just hit level 4, exposing us to the rest of the galaxy. Upon hitting level 4, we got the usual issues. The Persean League wanted to coat us in their piss color, and the Hedge got mad over some AI cores. This wasn't really an issue for us, as we had a shiny new orbital station, but it was for our pirate friends. With my only friends dead, it was up to me to spend far longer than I wanted sat behind this orbital station, and fending off the endless hordes trying to steal my supplies. To help in the defense, I colonized a desert world with the military core and named the planet appropriately. With a military core as the administrator, we got the usual buffs for having AI in charge, alongside an extra 30% fleet size and an extra patrol fleet. Anyway, because it wasn't a military base, I placed down some farming, followed up by a patrol HQ, and shortly after, our first fleet popped out. We finally have some friends to help us defend. They're not much, but they sure are something. What was great though, was for the first time in the game, we started making some money. With the money now pouring in, it seemed that our only friends wanted a cut. The pirate raid itself was pretty pathetic. Nothing we couldn't handle, but the damage to our relationship was done, and I had to repay the favor. After destroying their fleet, I headed back to our little home away from home and blew it up. Yep, I may have fucked up here. This meant, alongside our contact, I had also destroyed the 2 alpha cores. But hey, at least we got paid 80,000 credits. 80k that was invested into the greatest industry you can build in this game. Tech mining. Now, I'm not sure what was worse, the first month's production or the blockade that was en route composed of 20 fleets. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to do anything about this blockade, since we couldn't return to the core worlds and negotiate. So, we were gonna have to fight it. Slapping together a whole bunch of random ships then, I hid behind our new battle station and almost cried when the fleets arrived. Oh, fuck. Here we go, I guess. After an incredibly tense battle where our battle station was destroyed and I had to basically carry the entire battle with my onslaught, we managed to just about edge out a win. After the battle, I repaired our ships, harvested some more crew, and headed out to snipe another detachment. Which after defeating them, the Persean League just kind of gave up. 20 fleets ain't nothing. Get out of here, you stupid league. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Get defeated by my hordes of trash. To return the favor of the blockade, I headed over to a nearby planet that they had colonized and took it for myself. And you know, things started to look up for us. We colonized the barren world and built some refining and heavy industry, which allowed us to start producing some half-decent patrol fleets with our shiny pristine nanoforge. Now with a high command on not a military planet, they were able to start clearing out all the riffraff that remained in the system, and also helped us take down a mercenary company that Tritech sent to kill me. Which yes, I did steal that commander's Paragon with 3 S-mods. Alongside that, we fended off a Luddite Crusade and a hedge inspection, and at this point, I think it was safe to say that the defense of our system was under control, and it was time to look outwards. Over the last few cycles, the League had been slowly creeping out and colonizing planets outside the core worlds, and I think it was only fair that we invaded them. Now let's be honest, it's pretty easy to bully a handful of level 3 planets, but what was going to be a little bit harder was invading the planet of Cassadar, a level 7 independent planet that lingered far away from the core worlds and was guarded by a star fortress. For this invasion, I slapped together all the ships that I had acquired from the endless attacks on my homeworld, alongside a couple I built myself. Now I hate fighting star fortresses, but after grinding nearly my entire fleet, get the siege weapons up. They are not performing as well as I thought they would. Okay, the siege weapons, they got annihilated. Oh, this is actually a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. This, I'm running out of ships, but I think we're finally going to crack it. Now, winning the space battle was one thing, but winning the ground war was going to be significantly harder. And looking at the numbers, I knew we were outgunned. So, there was only one thing to do. You know, it's not like anyone was going to hear their screams anyway. After a couple of sat bombs, we didn't really have much resistance. It's a bit of a ruin because we might have been a little bit vigorous with our bombing campaign on it. But hey, it's ours now. With a nice profit coming in every month, my system defense looking like this, and humanity contained within the core worlds, I think it's safe to say we're done here. Anyway, I just want to say a big thank you for helping me reach 100,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you to my Patreons who throw money at me, and as always, new videos every week.
Things are about to get dicey.
Stabilize! Is that all you got?
Strike a pose! Let my name echo!
Solidify!
Quietly now. Here comes the catch. Cha. See? I'm getting shower me with praise. Time to shine. Busted. Game's up. Fun's over.
Stabilize! Now you're testing my patience.
Let the world come alive! Quietly now. Here comes the catch.
Solidify! This is order! Is that all you've got? Enough gather!
And teenagers in spandex shouting one-liners before blowing up goofy monsters, but the concept of this season was on a whole different level. In fact, to this day, Time Force is considered by many to be far and away the best season of the entire show, which thus far has extended to 30 different editions and even 3 theatrically released films. But I am here today to tell you that Power Rangers Time Force doesn't even hold a candle to the Japanese show that it borrows from. Last year, while I was stuck in bed, for reasons, I took the time to watch every single episode of Mirai Sentai Time Ranger. And let me tell you, it's pretty good. How were we robbed of such an incredible show? First thing to understand is that Power Rangers in the United States is squarely aimed at kids. Think ages 5 to 10. Its storytelling is simple, the humor and themes are all tailored to be acceptable for children, with a strong emphasis on goofy action, promoting teamwork, and teaching simple life lessons. Super Sentai, on the other hand, is designed for teens. While it's still family-friendly to an extent, it's not afraid to tackle darker and more complex narratives, delving into weighty topics like loss, betrayal, sacrifice, and even existential questions. Time Ranger focuses on subjects like fate, death, even the ethical dilemmas of law enforcement. Stuff far more sophisticated than its American equivalent. Time Ranger doesn't reset to everything's fine at the end of each episode. Actions have consequences, its characters grow. The battles are intense and leave scars emotional and sometimes literal. Its storytelling has stakes, and it doesn't condescend to its audience. Japanese media for kids at this time tended to be more willing to explore serious themes, trusting children and teenagers watching to process more complex stories. Now, to be fair, Power Rangers Time Force came out in 2001, and America was going through some stuff, but in the year 2000, Japan was focused on the potential of the new millennium, and so its showrunners tapped into cultural sentiment by exploring the future. Imagine this. It's the year 3000. As a result of immense technological advancements in the 30th century, scientists of this era pushed the boundaries of physics and engineering, successfully learning to manipulate the space-time continuum. With full-on time travel now possible, the authorities create the Time Protection Bureau to monitor and regulate its use, preventing the tech from being exploited for personal or criminal purposes. This agency acts as a kind of time police, arresting those who attempt to disrupt history. Violators are sent to a futuristic penitentiary and freeze compressed as punishment for their crimes. When our story begins, Captain Ryuya of the Time Bureau briefs a new batch of Time Ranger recruits. Simultaneously, a high-status prisoner transfer begins at the facility. A new group of criminals are being brought in for freeze compression, including mob boss Don Dolnero, the leader of a crime family called the Launders. To play on money laundering, get it? At long last, he's set to face justice. Except surprise, it's a trap set by the Launders family to get behind enemy lines and steal a time jet. Realizing the police have superior forces and firepower in this era, they plan to travel back 1,000 years and wreak havoc on an unsuspecting planet. Captain Ryuya selects a handful of recruits to chase the Launders back to the year 2000 and apprehend them. Let's meet the team. We've got 5 colors: pink, yellow, blue, green, and red. Time Pink is a girl named Yuri, a no-nonsense leader who works as a member of the anti-mafia division of Intercity Police. Time Yellow is Domon. He's the big, goofy, comic relief jock. Time Blue is Ayase, a total dreamboat former race car driver. Time Green is Shion, who is an alien. He's the youngest guy on the team, but has a heart of gold, as well as mysterious special powers, which leaves Time Red, originally intended to be Captain Ryuya. A Launder's scheme leaves him back in the future and unable to join the party. The Big Daddies also managed to blow up our hero's ship shortly after their arrival in the past, leaving the good guys with no way back home. Luckily, the ship's pilot, Tak, an adorable futuristic Furby, manages to survive the blast, and he provides the team with chrono changers, which allow them to transform. But there's a problem. The chrono changers are hard-coded to each officer's DNA, and all 5 need to be unlocked together. Without the captain, they're useless. No worries, though. Who should stumble upon the Rangers' crash site but Tatsuya Asami, a privileged yet aimless trust fund kid whose life is going nowhere fast. Living in the shadow of his wealthy, controlling father, Tatsuya spends his days coasting through life, unsure of what he wants or who he's meant to be. It just so happens that Tatsuya is the mere mirror image of the captain, no doubt his distant ancestor. How convenient. Team leader Yuri, however, is none too quick to seek the help of a civilian for such a serious mission. Tatsuya might have the DNA match they need, but in her eyes, he lacks the discipline and experience required for the job. But it looks like she doesn't have much of a choice. The Launders family has wasted no time in wreaking havoc. Within hours of their arrival in the year 2000, they're already causing chaos, leaving destruction in their wake and putting innocent lives in danger. So who are the baddies behind all the mayhem? Let's meet the villains. The top fish, Don Del Nero, is all about the Benjamins. Back in the 30th century, he was one of the most notorious crime bosses around, running a massive empire. Now that he's dropped into the unsuspecting past, his sole focus is on finding new schemes to rake in the dough. Whether it's through scams, smuggling, or shaking down the locals, Del Nero is always chasing the next big score. By his side is Lila, his cunning and flirtatious partner in crime. She's as dangerous as she is glamorous, with a love for jewels, money, and the thrill of the game. Unlike her sugar daddy, who's more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, Lila prefers to be out on the streets, putting the family's plans into action and stirring up all kinds of trouble. And then there's Yen, the wild card of the group, a brilliant yet unhinged cyborg. Yen has a thirst for chaos and destruction that goes beyond greed. He's got his sights set on nothing less than total world domination. Able to build killer minion robots from nuts and bolts, he's always cooking up devastating weapons and machines to keep Time Rangers on the defensive. The dastardly trio has managed to escape to the past with an entire vault of frozen monsters at their disposal, and it's up to our heroes to capture each villain one by one and then return to the future. Let's talk about the stuff that's cool. Number one, the theme song.
Busted. Game's up.
What the young kids call a banger. The stunts. This is where Super Sentai shows excel. There's actually a name for this genre in Japan. It's called tokusatsu, which roughly translates to special effects, live-action shows or movies that focus on practical effects, elaborate costumes, and stunts. Each episode focuses on high-energy martial arts, wirework, flashy explosions, and of course, each episode ends with a giant robot fight. Speaking of which, the monsters of the show are a special treat. There's always a new lackey to deal with every episode, and in spite of the formula, it never gets old or feels stale. Every baddie has a unique hook and fighting style, with a lot of standouts that you wish you could see more of. I'm also a huge fan of the show's visual effects. You see, we get these brief glimpses into the year 3000 throughout the show, and these moments are, to me, fascinating. Super Sentai is, by all accounts, a low-budget TV show, and seeing how the creative team chose to pull off these sequences is truly inspiring. There's a sort of charm to the cheap CGI, the miniature stop-motion, ambitious compositing. They're trying stuff here that, for the time and the industry and the budget, looks great. By far, the two characters that totally steal the show are the Dawn and Gien. It is an absolute travesty what the American version did to these roles, reducing them to one-dimensional caricatures. In Mirai Sentai Time Rangers, Don Del Nero is a layered character. Beneath the greedy and gruff cigar-smoking mob boss is a complex leader who genuinely cares for his crew. He's a deeply flawed, but strangely endearing presence in the show, with laugh-out-loud moments and even shocking turns of villainy. Power Rangers Time Force, by contrast, turns him into a wimpy, useless lackey that only hangs around in the background for occasional toilet humor comic relief.
Surprise, it's me, Pluto, your secret admirer.
What a waste. I get it though, he smokes, you can't show that on kids' TV. Likewise, Gien. In the US show, he's just generic bad guy robot, but in Mirai Sentai, he is a truly tragic character with a shocking backstory who slowly descends into madness as he embraces destructive urges that are genuinely chilling to watch. Time Rangers as a whole succeeds because of its compelling character. One of the downsides of the American adaptation's younger target audience is its hesitancy and often downright refusal to give characters real complexity. But the original show has it in spades. You see, with 51 episodes, a video special, and a crossover movie, Mirai Sentai Time Ranger has the space to fully develop its world, its lore, and most importantly, its characters. Rangers. Each member of the team has a compelling backstory, unique motivations, and a personal journey that unfolds over the course of the whole series. It's not just about the action or the flashy visual sequences, it's about watching these characters grow, struggle, and find their purpose. And Time Ranger delivers that in a way that few shows of its kind manage to actually achieve. As the series unfolds, we learn more and more about what drives each team member. Take Yuri. Turns out the whole reason she became a cop was because her family was brutally murdered by a hitman working for the Dawn. Her relentless pursuit of justice and ultimately vengeance becomes her driving force throughout the show, to the point where it consumes her. Yuri's arc is about the fine line between justice and revenge, making her one of the most compelling characters in the series. Then there's Domon, who starts off as the team's comedic muscle, but quickly proves to be so much more. A former mixed martial arts prize fighter, he's soon torn between two worlds. His life as a celebrated athlete in the year 3000, or his new life as a nobody in the year 2000, but where he experiences his first real chance of finding true love. His story is a heartfelt exploration of growth and learning what truly matters in life. Ayase, Time Blue, hides a life-threatening heart condition from his teammates and is haunted by mistakes in his former life as a street racer. Xion, Mr. Alien, despite his cheerful demeanor, struggles to connect with others and address the trauma of being the last survivor of his home planet. And overshadowing the entire series is Tatsuya and his fraught relationship with his father. As the son of a powerful industrialist, Tatsuya is expected to inherit the family business, but he rebels against his father's rigid control, seeking to carve out his own destiny. His leadership as Time Red is as much about defying the future that has been set out for him as it is about saving the timeline itself. What makes Time Rangers exceptional is how all these side stories weave seamlessly throughout the series, creating this slow burn, character-driven narrative that still feels like a fast-paced weekly action show full of battles and bad guys. Look past the usual trappings of the genre, and it's a journey through the lives of its characters, each of whom brings their own struggles and growth to the table. Standout installments include episode 11, Deathmatch City, where a monster places a nearby town under hypnosis and forces everyone into a violent battle royale that the Rangers must stop. A local journalist that gets rescued touches off a love triangle subplot that manages to keep you glued to the screen the rest of the series. Then there's episode 13, Battle Casino, takes the Rangers deep into the...
I will always be by your side. Until the stars diminish, the flames die out, and the smoke dissipates into nothing.
Enough. Literally enough.
City's seedy criminal underworld. 18, 19, and 20 is basically this epic three-part movie where the Rangers realize that their presence in the past may very well be altering the course of history. 28, 29, and 30 likewise crank up the stakes and introduce Naoto, the 6th Ranger, or as he is known on the streets, I love it. I cannot get enough of that. Episode 32 is a total heartbreaker that flips the standard Monster of the Week formula totally on its head. Instead of facing a typical rampaging villain, the Time Rangers encounter a monster who doesn't want to fight at all. This creature, thawed out and forced into action by the Launders family, is genuinely remorseful for its past crimes and seeks nothing more than a chance to start over. over. The Rangers are divided, and the audience grapples with the question of forgiveness and even the rigidity of the criminal justice system. It's weirdly compelling stuff. By episode 40, Ayase's secret heart condition reaches a tipping point, and he must choose between whether to spend his last few months in peace or fighting alongside his friends. Tatsuya and Yuri face their feelings for each other. Even Tak gets his own emotional tearjerker side arc. The final collection of episodes is a masterclass in payoff, with these dense and intense conclusions to every character arc carefully set up throughout the series. Both the Rangers and the villains are forced to confront the choices that they have made throughout the show, and every decision carries weight, rippling through the narrative with consequences that feel earned. For the Rangers, it's a reckoning of their personal struggles and their growth as a team. Tatsuya must finally face his father and the future that he's been running from. Yuri confronts the depth of her desire for vengeance and what it may ultimately cost her. Ayase grapples with his own mortality, Domon and his longing for love, Shion with his search for a homeland. Even the villains aren't left out. Everyone has a stake and nobody emerges unchanged. And by the time the final credits roll, you'll find yourself thinking, what? That was stupidly good for a low-budget, weekly Japanese kids show about stunt guys in spandex fighting stunt guys in rubber suits. Because somehow, Time Ranger transcends the typical tokusatsu trappings and delivers a gut punch of an ending that's not just satisfying, but cements it as one of the best entries in the entire Super Sentai franchise. So yeah, if you're a Power Rangers fan and you want to see what its source material is capable of, or you're an anime fan wanting to see what it would look like if that style of storytelling was done like in live action, even if you're just interested in checking out, no pun intended, a time capsule of Japanese television at the turn of the millennium, check out Time Ranger. It's available on streaming. Let me know what you think in the comments. And hey, while you're at it, isn't it about time you finally put that website idea together? This video's sponsor, Squarespace, has everything you need to get started. They can help you put together a beautifully designed website in no time thanks to their all-new design intelligence, giving you access to easy-to-use tools so that you can build a site that feels uniquely you, no coding required. Whether you're showcasing your art, stories, or business, your vision will shine. If you want to start your own podcast, Squarespace has got you covered with audio blocks. Plus, you can sell stuff from courses to videos to music or memberships. You can get started today by going to squarespace.com and starting a free trial. Then, when you're ready to launch your site in full, head over to squarespace.com/Austin McConnell to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain.
Many insects have a compulsion to follow the light, and humans are the same. Except we call that light.
Is they're about as rare as Skittles at a diabetic convention. No, stop, this makes no sense! And everything was fine!
Every one of the bags you threw hit me in the head.
And what's even worse is when you do explore it with your 20 Radaway, 76 Rad-X, and 7 suits of full power armor, there is nothing. here. Remember that glowing location we spent this whole time thinking about? What could be there? What interesting characters? What exciting development is this thing with no one inside with more dialogue than...
Atom has provided us with all that we need.
Disappointing. 1 out of 10. Retake the exam. Game. Remake the game. It just gets to the stage where you don't really want to explore anymore. You see a big looming building off in the distance and you are literally filled with dread.
The longer the note, the more dread.
Because you know all that's going to be there if you're lucky is a few computer logs, a magazine, and literally hordes of raiders with stockpiles of missile launchers, Fat Mans, flamers, miniguns, cannons, Gatling lasers, Gauss rifles, Tesla rifles, plasma rifle. I did find some X01 power armor though, which... is kinda cool, I guess. One of my favorite locations in Fallout 3 for various reasons was the Dunwich building. The main reason I liked it so much was because the sound design and slow pace created an immensely spooky atmosphere. There's actually a location in Fallout 4 which is a reference to this called the Dunwich Borers. And it's a great comparison to show how Fallout 4 ruins everything. You enter the Dunwich Borers and immediately you can see the problem, because this place is absolutely crammed with gunners all the way through. I just don't get it. How are you supposed to feel alone when there's enough people here to fill one giant dog meat? Not to mention there are dozens of ghouls, spotlights, turrets. Turrets? In a horror location? Are you mental? Wow, look how atmospheric this is. Could you imagine if the Dunwich building was filled with turrets? Oh, this is really scary. I wonder what's around the next corner. Oh, goody. Sure, it doesn't seem so bad, but every time I start to feel slightly immersed, a new fight inevitably starts up. Drums from a fucking Michael Bay epic roar up. Michael. And I'm flanked on all sides by gunners, machine guns, and turrets. And after every single fight, the drums end in one giant, massive crescendo to signal it's over. Oh, it's finally over. Wait, are those more turrets? Constantly throughout this game, you have to wage hundreds of wars bigger than the Battle of Hoover Dam just to find out if any single character worth meeting is in any single location, and it's so exhausting. And this, of course, is largely because of... I've mentioned before that in the previous games, the combat was pretty clunky. Not only did this give the games their unique feel, it meant you could never really be presented with that many enemies at once. The joy of this was that you usually had to strategize using mines and other makeshift weapons to get through the janky fights. It also meant that you had to rely on VATS, because aiming without it was as natural as Fallout 4's facial animations.
Good.
Adventuring is right up
I
my
find that I don't really ever use VATS or explosives in Fallout 4 because the easiest solution to all my problems is, well, what you can see on screen. Can you feel how bored I am? So to compensate for how easy and simplistic the combat is now, Bethesda has at least tripled the amount of enemies to make the game more difficult. The problem is every weapon and combat effect in this game creates so much impact and movement on screen, it makes me feel genuinely sick. When you fight sentry bots, for example, which are scattered throughout the wasteland like minstrels at a diabetic festival. Shut up! It's honestly like the world is coming to an end again. How am I supposed to fight back against this? And in melee combat, the screen is oscillating so wildly, I'm worried the Smiths are gonna file a lawsuit. And it's exactly the same problem with all of the Assaultrons. Wait a second, what's this doing? Oh my god! Also, whoever's idea it was to have the critical meter be a bar deserves to have a portal to hell open so that hungry maggots can feast on... Oh. Deserves a swift spank on the bottom. Let me tell you a little something about video games. They're supposed to be fun. No, with the critical meter being a meter that you slowly build up, all you need to do is fight until you have a critical hit stored, then save it for whenever you need it to win a fight. It completely removes all aspect of surprise from the proceedings. Remember when you had 10 luck in Fallout New Vegas and Doc Mitchell says,
"With luck like yours, I'm surprised them bullets didn't just turn right around and climb back into the gun."
Well, if that game was like Fallout 4, you would instead have to say, luck 10, eh? Remember to press X to perform a critical hit. Combat in the previous games was just a means to an end. It was something to occupy your hands while you met new characters and completed side quests. In Fallout 4, though, finding people to shoot is the main reason you explore. You can, of course, also find magazines which increase your combat skills, but most of the ones I found just increase the amount of damage I did on a critical hit, like finding a magazine that increases your chance of getting punched in the testicles. And no locations more sum up how Fallout 4 is only about combat than the vaults. As we all know, in Fallout 4 and New Vegas, exploring the vaults is the very best part of the games. Bethesda and Obsidian bottled absolute magic with these sections. The slow pace and the soundtrack that is just a broken mess of whispers and jagged radio signals created an amazing tone.
So with all this under their belt, Bethesda were definitely able to recreate the same atmosphere in the vaults in Fallout 4. Oh no!
Vault 114 is filled with Triggermen, Vault 75 is filled with Gunners, and Vault 95 is filled with a crushing sense of disappointment that we waited 7 years for this game to come out. I mean, even more Gunners. These vaults are just like everywhere else, with absolutely no atmosphere or pacing. Vault 81 is of course pretty good, though half of the residents are somehow the most hideous characters I've ever seen. I'm certain a lot of this game doesn't work, not because Bethesda are monsters like we've always assumed. There's a lot of really impressive stuff in this game. I think they've just spread themselves too thin, like Marmite on toast, but most of it got on the floor. Bethesda worked so hard on this game, and the sheer number of things they pulled off here is mental.
But Bethesda was so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think whether or not they should.
Ooh, here's all the completely new stuff I wrote down that this game tries to do. Pause it if you like. Any sane person would take one look at this list and profess that doing all of this properly would be impossible. And that's the problem. Clearly no one is reining Todd Howard back. He's like James Cameron when he made Avatar.
You know, he could just blow his whole budget and film wherever he wanted. Where the hell am I now?
Let's start with the real biggie. Oh yes, let's discuss. In the late 80s, when LucasArts held the crown for the best video game writers, they realized that if all possible options for the things you could say during each round of dialogue were there as a list, it was not only a great opportunity to show off all the amazing writing they could come up with, but they could also use the other options to expose to the player extra fun information about our characters and the game world. They took this idea so seriously, in fact, they got Orson Scott Card, the writer of Ender's Game, Ender's Shadow, Ender's End, and his magnum opus End, to write the sword fighting dialogue in The Secret of Monkey Island 1. This way it was so engaging that you could happily sit and read it over and over before making your choices. This is good design. In Fallout 4, all of the options of what you can say in dialogue have been simplified to mostly single one-word answers. All of this history is disregarded. It's such bad design, in fact, that I'm surprised that people who put this in were capable of making the rest of the game function at all. Well, you know, I mean, it is sort of okay. I mean, it's alright, I guess. At the start, it isn't so bad. Your dialogue options are all reasonably well thought out, and you can just about assume what you're going to say. But by the time you get to Good Neighbor, the writers have completely given up, and everything just becomes yes, no, maybe, and what, did they forget to write one in here? What it means is you almost always have absolutely no idea what your character is actually going to say in this series known for its thought-provoking dialogue.
I hope the next time we meet, we'll be under happy.
There's a moment, for example, where we are chatting with our friendly synth friend, Nick Valentine, who will come up more later. And after he mentions that he is a synth, I decide to simply ask curiously, oh, so you're one of them? And this leads to...
Don't lie to me. You're one of them. They made you.
Whoa, Nate. Cool it with the anti-synth remarks. See, this is why I like Nora Becker.
This may seem like a small example, but it happens constantly throughout the entire game. And implementing this system took time. Think about it, the dialogue is already written. Just display it at the bottom like any game has ever done ever. But no, a load of poor developers had to go through every bit of player dialogue in the entire game, of which there are over 13,000 lines I may add, and summarize every single line into a few meaningless words that somehow make sense in context. And to what end? Making the game substantially worse? It isn't just that. This new system totally ruins any potential dialogue puzzles the game could have had. For example, in probably the best questline in the game, you can choose to become the Shroud and travel around fighting crime. If you dress as the Shroud while you do this, you also get the option to talk like the Shroud in conversations, and it's quite fun.
Your crimes have gone unpunished for too long.
This questline ends with you fighting off against a big crime boss, and one of the ways to beat him is to talk like the Shroud over and over until he gets scared. But rather than us having to read each dialogue option carefully in order to work out which sounds closest to the sort of thing the Shroud would say, like a dialogue puzzle in a dialogue-driven RPG, the game simply gives you the option to talk like the Shroud 3 times in a row and then you win. What? I can't think of a more inane, moronic, harebrained way to manage dialogue, and every single interaction throughout the entire game uses this system. This watered-down, washed-out, oversimplified, difficult-to-use, confusing mess that took actual work to implement. Like, what the what is no, it gets even worse. In Fallout 4, both the male and female characters have full voice acting, and that's totally fine. But it makes me wonder, what game were Bethesda trying to make here? Is it one where every aspect of our character is fully customizable, so a player can play as anyone or anything they like and roleplay as that specific person? Or is it one where you're playing as a character that Bethesda has created for you with a full backstory that totally informs your behavior in all situations? Guys, we'll do both. In The Witcher 3, the person we control is fully voiced, but this works because we're not playing as a character we have designed from the ground up. Generally, the choices we pick in this game are based on how we think Geralt as a character would act. This is partly why the game doesn't let us change Geralt's appearance. Finally, we're perfect! Fallout 4 lets you change everything about your character. Everything. But still gives you a fully voiced person with a backstory set in stone, carved in onyx, lasered in fucking diamond. It means the player can't really get immersed because the game constantly drags us between these two conflicting ideas. It's further compounded by how opinionated our characters are. For example, when I finally get offered the opportunity to fight crime as the Shroud, the scourge of the underworld, shadow of the night, evil's bane, I of course choose to become the Shroud. Yes.
Looks like I get to be the Shroud. Yay.
Look, I know Freddy Fallout and Nikki Nuka-Cola over here love base building so they can put their Deathclaw hand collection on show like some kind of 90s serial killer. Do you see? Do you see? But you...
That's the thing. That would be the last boss. Okay, just go there.
I don't get it. Every time you put something in a game, you take attention away from something else. And not only does the base building make me want to cough up blood every time I use it, but it comes with a full settlement unlocking system and a sim-based management, which is about as impressive as this game's draw distance.
Take a look over there.
Well, then,
That's 14.
Not only that, but the base building gets in the way of the game's story. For example, there's a section where Preston asks me to clear some rubble from a hallway in a castle. And this seems pretty simple. There's even a rocket launcher in this room. Stand back. No, it doesn't work. What I'm supposed to do is...
Bring it!
Stop. There's even a bit where we need to build a fully functioning teleporter in order to reach the Institute. Building it is so complicated, in fact, that we have to commit to joining one of the game's major factions so that they can use their advanced technological skills to construct it. And yet what ends up happening is... done. Even as I'm showing you this, I feel like I've made it up. But this is it. This is part of the main storyline. Why is it so bad? Why can't the game just fade out and then the faction helping you build it builds it? Keep in mind too that this teleporter is largely made from steel and bits of cloth. So I've somehow constructed this all on my own with nothing but a bunch of desk fans and teddy bears.
As a result of Bethesda putting all this work into stuff that I don't think improves the game in any way, Fallout 4 just ends up feeling so unfinished.
I mean, the bottom third of the whole map literally has no quests to collect in them. And the quests we do get are so vague. Like this one I got right after leaving the vault. At the start of the game said nothing but kill Pyro. Okay, if you say so.
Hey guys, Fallout Pyrocynical here. I just wanted to say...
the demon is defeated. A big part of this game is upgrading your weapons and armor, but every time you upgrade something, like the laser pistol for example, its name completely changes. There are about 42 upgrades, and thus about 42 different names you can have for a single laser pistol. Excited laser pistol, boosted laser pistol, agitated laser pistol, fiery laser pistol, long laser pistol, automatic, improved, charging, comfort, short-sighted, scope, tactical, recon, scattered, focus. I'm gonna equip my improved scattered laser pistol. But you can organize your weapons by type, right? Right? No, the only way to organize your weapons in your inventory really is alphabetically. Why can't we organize weapons by weapon type? Better yet, why do the menus not just have sub-menus, you sub-morons? I mean, you can be carrying 6 near-identical laser pistols, but somehow they'll be spread out from top to bottom anywhere in your weapons menu. Just update the game so we can organize weapons into melee, energy, and ballistic. Armor is the absolute worst, though. See, we as humans have 6 body parts, right? Quick, write that down! Write that down! So we can wear 6 different pieces of over armor, 1 on each body part. But because the Pip-Boy screen is so small, you'll never be able to see everything you're wearing. Then, say you're doing something like the Silver Shroud mission, so want to dress as the Shroud for a few minutes. You equip the armor and...
did I just unequip everything?
That's right, most outfits in this game will unequip all current armor, baby. And God knows what you were just wearing. Half of it was off screen and the rest of it had names like Biocom, Mesh, Polymer, Combat Armor, Chest Piece. Sorry, I can't quite hear you. And we haven't even begun on misc items. You know when you pick up a note in Skyrim and you can read it and then you put it away in what can be classed as the most basic rule of game design? Well, Fallout 4 is made by the same people as Skyrim, so I'm sure it's the same. Oh, wait! Yes, when you pick up notes in Fallout 4, you can't read them right away. This means you have to pick up the note, look at it, close the note, open the Pip-Boy, scroll to misc items, scroll all the way through to find the note you just picked up, open it again, and then you can finally read the note. However, misc items refers to almost every single item known to man. You have to scroll past everything. Bobby pins, bobbleheads, books, cards, comics, keys, holotapes, quest items, magazines, models, letters, logs, passwords, tokens, schematics. You can finally reach the note you just picked up, reopen it, and finally oh, good. Again, even Skyrim had a separate menu for keys, yet every key you pick up in Fallout 4 is randomly littered around this misc item menu. What the hell happened here? Why haven't Bethesda fixed this in one of its 7,000 updates of Fallout 4? Please, we don't want any next-gen items that are simultaneously hideous and break Fallout London. I just want a fucking key ring.
All right. I've avoided it long enough. Let's talk about the game's story. It's real bad.
The main story is where the bulk of the quests in this game went. And at its best, it's pretty good. And at its worst, it's the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. What is happening? The first chunk of the story involves us hiring the synth Valentine as a private detective to find Kellogg. The first thing you do is find his house. And in here, we find a secret room that couldn't possibly exist if you look at it from the outside. What is he now, the fucking doctor? Valentine eventually suggests that we track Kellogg using his sniffer dog, Dogmeat. Dogmeat? You're telling me that Dogmeat is introduced here as part of the main story? Why the hell did we meet him at the start of the game then? Why not just pace his introduction properly by first meeting him here? Dogmeat then tracks Kellogg across the Commonwealth.
I smoke my stogie anywhere I want.
And in this 15-minute long little stroll, we fight almost every type of enemy in the Fallout canon. Dogs, ghouls, robots, mole rats, turrets, and bears, oh my! It's like we're at Disneyland and we've gotten on the Fallout-themed ride. I mean, this entire mission takes place literally on rails. I can't even comprehend the poetic irony. And we aren't done there. Since then appear the fucking Brotherhood turn up and, well, no, that was everything. It's like Mission 3, and here's all the things we've encountered so far. Could I interest you in all of Fallout all of the time? The actual meeting with Kellogg is also similarly on rails. You can't reason with him, you can't let him go. All you can do is blow him up. Shortly after all this, then, the main factions in this game, the Brotherhood of Steel, the Railroad, the Institute, and the Minutemen come into play, and they're all fighting to control the future of the Commonwealth. Replaying this game, I actually found I quite liked the Brotherhood. The Railroad, however, are a bit weird. They claim to be this clever network of expert spies who are trying to infiltrate the Institute, but they are all idiots. After we track them down, for example, their leader asks us,
But who told you how to contact us?
"What? Excuse me, lady, you have personally left dozens of notes all about you all over the Commonwealth. There's a robot outside loudly directing everyone to your secret base, and the password to your covert railroad headquarters is literally the word railroad. This is like MI5's password being MI5 or James Bond. It's like whoever wrote this section of the game wanted to watch Bridge of Spies for research, but accidentally watched Bridge It Jones.
Oh yeah, I earned this.
The biggest issue for me, though, is from here, the game becomes entirely about synths and whether or not they are human beings. This has been done before. Worst of all, as we all know, this was done in the previous game. Synths and the Institute got a lovely 60-minute side quest that adequately explored all the ideas and themes of artificial machine life with a nice little bow on top. Now, Fallout 4 is entirely about it. This is like if they made Pulp Fiction 2, but it's only about that coffee Quentin Tarantino made. The Institute, then, for some reason, are producing synths and swapping them out with humans on the surface in order to spy on people. Most of these synths, for some reason, are also identical to humans in every way, with a full range of dreams and emotions, yet they are treated exactly like slaves. The game then clearly establishes the Institute as being pretty evil, and as such, the other factions we meet, and I think most players at home, will want to try and stop them. This leads us then to eventually teleporting to their underground base and meeting their leader, Father. Now, as everyone and their dogs know, Father is actually our son, Sean, because after Kellogg took Sean, he refrosted us for 60 more years.
Kellogg's refrosties, anyone?
In my playthrough, though, of course, the tone was undercut a little bit by Father constantly teleporting about.
I am your son.
I am your father.
Father assures us that the Institute is actually a great place, so understandably we want to ask lots of questions so we can learn about the Institute and its motivations. Unfortunately, well, I played through the entire Institute storyline and you never once get any decent explanation of why the Institute is being so evil. Father even says,
It really is humanity's best hope for the future.
But when we inquire why you, to Father making the claim that the Institute is the future of humanity, our character asks him,
Director? Why you?
Wait, what? That is your only question? Not why are you building synths, not why give them emotions, not why kidnap people, not even who's flying the damn helicopter. No, we asked the last possible thing you'd think why you could possibly denote in this situation. See, here's where the conversation system doesn't just be quite confusing, it completely breaks down. The entire game has been leading to and hinges on these chats we have with Father. Yet every conversation we have with him is plagued with us having absolutely no idea what we're actually going to say. No matter what we pick, we never discuss anything relevant about synths or the Institute's plans. Nothing you say ever has any impact on Father's point of view or the ending of the game, and 90% of the time you only ever get to pick one of the 4 vague options presented to you in dialogue, and then the conversation permanently moves on. All of this combined means the conversations you have with Father over the course of this game have to be the worst, least satisfying conversations in video game history.
Damn you, son!
The second big chat we have with him is on this roof, and here Father reveals to us that he's never been outside the Institute in his entire life. But in his quick 2-minute little midnight stroll on a roof, he decides the Commonwealth is dead and has no future, completely contradicting the only single tangible point he's made in this entire game. If you do suffer an embolism and decide to join the Institute, Father eventually reveals that we are going to be made the Institute's new leader. And again, this should be great, but it never gives us any option whatsoever to free synths or tell them to stop kidnapping people, so it's meaningless. Eventually then, as any sane person would, you give up on the Institute and use the Minutemen or Railroad to try and save the synths. If you join the Railroad, they eventually reveal that their final plan to save all of the synths and put an end to slavery is to set off a nuclear bomb within the Institute. Oh, the peaceful approach, is it? Yeah, remember when Abraham Lincoln emancipated the slaves by detonating the Northern Hemisphere? What a guy. Seriously, guys, is there not any other way to deal with the Institute, which I am now the fucking leader of, I remind you, than detonating a nuke within it? What, are we trying to recreate the divide here? But this is how the game is programmed to end. No matter which faction you side with, you storm the Institute and full-on Megaton the place, seemingly killing everyone you were attempting to save and all the numerous innocent people living here. I mean, I met several scientists here who seem to want the synths to have more rights. Hell, the explosion itself above ground takes out half of the game map.
We did it. We saved everyone.
Before you do blow up the Institute, though, you can choose to have one final complex chat with Father. At this point, we've won. We've overrun the entire Institute, but we don't even get close to an option to negotiate the Institute's freedom if they stop being so evil. All we get is...
Are you in any pain?
There's nothing more to say.
Ah, that's nothing, though. In my playthrough, he didn't even spawn in his bed.
It's not enough that I lay here dying.
Bye, son. So we blow up the Institute for absolutely no reason and are forced to watch the most tonally dissonant closing cinematic possible.
I can feel it wash over me. The heat, the force, the radiation. I close my eyes. I see my life before.
This emotion hasn't been earned. We're all sitting at home totally baffled about why the hell we had to blow up the most technologically advanced place in the wasteland after we fully took it over. Not to mention, within just the opening and closing of this game, our character says...
War never changes.
A total of 5 times. Did Bethesda really have this little faith in their writing?
Yes. So there we go. The biggest issue this game has then, I'd say, was obviously the Institute, particularly Father's character.
He's just so full of contradictions, it's impossible to see his point of view at all. At one point, he reveals to you that he dearly hopes you could love a synth child that he's made. This is insane! Father's only recognizable character trait and the entire plot of this game revolves around how adamant he is that synths are nothing but unfeeling machines. He would never ask this!
I also think this game attempted to do so many different things. It wasn't able to do any of them perfectly. In my playthrough alone, I found so much unfinished stuff. Look, here I'll read off a quickfire list.
Wait, my senses can't take any more bad game design.
Oh, really?
Many of the animations were constantly messing up. The camera was always doing weird things in conversations. VATS often made me feel fucking sick. Stealth armor would make the Pip-Boy menu disappear. Characters' skin would change color. Mutants were so low res it was like they hadn't rendered properly. Underwater exploration is broken. Elevators never work. The frame rate is all over the place. Textures were disappearing. Characters were disappearing. The draw distance, the shadow distance, the Pip-Boy light, lighting effects, general lighting.
No! No! No!
I can feel it wash over me. The heat, the force, the radiation. It's the end of the world all over again. I close my eyes. I see my life.
No, shut up! Ugh, how am I supposed to get out of here now? Wait, a desk fan? And a teddy bear? Who cares if it makes sense? Fuck it! Hey everyone, thank you all so much for watching this video. As always, this video was a little bit spinny, with me needing to hire music producers, the set and set designers, cinematographers, voice actors, special effects artists, editors. So if you enjoyed this video and want me to continue making high production stuff like this, please consider joining my Patreon for as little as $2 linked below. I'll be posting loads of extra cut content and a director's commentary over the next few weeks, so do check it out. As well as that we also of course have the Absolute Nightmare box set, which contains loads of extra exclusive videos and things.
Hello everyone. I want to start this video by saying I initially had good intentions, as the original goal was to see if I could make 1 million credits a month running an ethical company, proving that I can do more than just destroy everything around me. Instead, what you're going to see is the slow decline from humble beginnings all the way to ruthless megacorp, where taxes will be avoided. I owe 250,000 in taxes. Competition will be crushed, and watch the slow decline into insanity as I justify murdering millions of people just so I have an additional 2% of the ore market. Anyway, I began the game outside this independent planet with nothing more than the usual 20,000 credits and a single ship to my name. As you can tell, this run already had the markings of a humble origin story. However, I had already made my first mistake by leaving the tutorial on. Oh, for God's sake, I left the fucking tutorial on. Despite popular belief, I do know how to play this game, thank you. Now, for real though, starting with a single shade meant I'd already screwed myself out of doing efficient trade runs. The first thing we needed to do then was get some new ships. So it was time to do the galaxy a favor and bully our good old friends, the pirates. Pirates at the start of the game usually have nothing more than a horde of trash frigates. Things like hounds and kites, which 9 times out of 10 are useless. But when you have a total cargo capacity of 25, that decrepit hound with 5 S mods looks mighty appealing. Anyway, I headed over to a nearby system where Tritech had posted a bounty for pirate activity and picked a fight with some of the scouts. Predictably, the fight that followed was 2.5 minutes of misery, as it was filled with failed maneuvers, counters, go harpoons, flares, until I had finally found a tactic that worked. Oh, what are you gonna do? I'm inside you. After smashing the pirate scout, I was able to recover both of the hounds, and following the advice of the tutorial, I headed to a nearby planet and slapped on some of the hottest trash I could find, and then ventured back out.
Alright, that seems that I'm pretty much crushed. So that's going to be it. So, fun, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.